I put this together yesterday, Stephen, if you want to bring it up. I called it, "What's the Deal?" It's the power of leverage. So this is actually my own personal journey through home ownership. So everyone can see that, you don't have to aim for the stars. I was saying to Stephen, you just got to start climbing the tree, get to the top of the tree first, get in the tree and then reach for the stars later, So my first home I bought in 2011. I put 5% down, which equated to $10,600. The home itself was $212,000. And actually, funny story, the house was actually listed by Paul Rushforth's office, and it was actually on the show called, oh my God, All for Nothing, I think it was called. So they basically, two homes compete, and the winner of the show gets a listing, basically a free listing. But what you had to do is you had to try to improve the value of your home by investing the least amount of money. This was the premise of the show. So the people were like bartering. They were doing garage sales to make money, to try to do these renos and so on. Anyways, long story short, got the home for $212,000. I lived there for 7 years. And in the very last year I was there, I invested $6,000 into renovating prior to selling. So I just updated the countertops, updated the cabinets in the kitchen, redid the countertop in the washroom upstairs. Just did some small updates.
IKEA kitchen, nothing fancy. So we're talking now 212 or 218 rather, right? Purchase price plus your
218. So with over 7 years. Keep in mind, 7 years. So this is, Greg, to your point about don't expect your home to go up, 100% in 3 years. In 7 years, I bought it for $212 and I sold it for $217. So over 7 years, the value only went up $5,000. Now, in hindsight, a year later, it sold for $320, but that doesn't matter. Okay, I sold it for $217. And the only reason I was able to buy my second home is because of the principal pay down. So I was just paying my mortgage just regularly on a monthly basis for 7 years. And I was able to sell it for $217. And that gave me enough money to be able to buy home number 2, which was in 2018. So same thing, I put 5% down. It was a $340,000 semi-detached. So the original one was a townhome. It was a 3-bedroom townhome. This was a 4-bedroom semi-detached in Britannia Village, $340,000. I used the Purchase Plus Improvement Program. So this is a program that is offered by the insurers, so CMHC, Sagen, et cetera. And you can actually add $40,000 in renovations to your mortgage to increase the value of your home. So as long as the renovations you're doing increase the value of your home by the equivalent of what you're borrowing, you can borrow that money. So I borrowed $40,000 from that. I added it to my mortgage. I updated everything: floors, baseboards, washrooms, redid the kitchen, just basically top to bottom, full flip renovation. I invested an additional $20,000 of my own dollars out of that. So a total investment of $60,000. And then this past year in January, I was able to sell that property for $625,000. So that's a 3-year return. And then my last home, the home that I just bought recently, bought in 2021. So 10% down. So I put a little more into it. I bought it a single family home for $612,000. So I bought it for less than I sold the semi for. Again, use the Purchase Plus for the $40,000. And then I'm investing the remainder of my proceeds that I got from the last home into increasing the value of this home. So I don't know exactly where the value is going to lie once the renos are done, but it's certainly going to be higher than 612. And this is a perfect example. Over 10 years, I started with a $10,000 investment, and I was able to now buy a forever home, over 10 years. So you can't look at the average sale price of $700,000 and say, well, I'm never going to be able to buy a home. You got to look at, first of all, getting pre-approved so you know exactly what your buying power is. But if you make an income of say $60,000 to $65,000, or if you have 2 people in a household and you both make say minimum wage and you have a household income of say $70,000, you can buy a home. You can buy a home for $300,000. You can do that. It's 100% possible. So you really can't be discouraged. And we're not, I know we always talk about home prices are going up and, prices are crazy and sales are crazy, but the most important thing is get into home ownership if you're interested. Buy a starter home, a true starter home. And, deal with it for a couple of years and know
Work
that this is a roadmap. You got to create the roadmap. You can't sit there for 10 years and then look back and say, well, I wish I had just bought that starter home 10 years ago. You got to just do it, get in there. And ultimately, if you're paying $1,500 or $2,000 in rent, you're going to be paying the same thing in this townhome, but you own it. There's actually an ownership component and it's an investment. And every time you pay that mortgage, you're paying off your mortgage. You're paying into your own pocket again when you eventually sell that home. Or if you decide to stay there for a long term, you have an asset now.
And over that period of time that you had that house in Blackburn, your principal pay down you made was also at, your rate was probably in the threes. And
I think it was now 299 or 289, something like that.
And so rates right now, you're, if you're putting 5 or 10% down, you can get a variable as low as, you're talking 1.45, basically half the rate. So your principal pay down, if you were in the same situation now, you would have you'd be able to pay that much more principal off, even if the value didn't go up, and just leverage that to buy the next place like you did. I think that's what a lot of people forget about, right? They get hung up, like you said, on the average home price, on the $700,000 $1 million homes, and those aren't your starter homes. No one's expecting you to come out of university or come out of your parents' basement and go and buy $1 million home. Those aren't,
It's not realistic. Yeah, it's not realistic. It's not, and that's not the real world. And that's why we wanted to kind of talk about this circumstance, because this is, like I said, this is my own personal journey. And even when I bought that home, I had no intentions of, like, when I bought that house, I thought I might be there for a long time, and I was. 7 years is a long time in home ownership, I would say. But I think the other mistake that people make is that when they are thinking about buying a home, they're thinking about buying their forever home. I say that in quotes, their forever home at the beginning. And it's just not, again, that's not I don't think that's the right approach. I've never gone into a place thinking, this is where I'm going to live the rest of my life. This is where I'm going to buy right now because this is what I can afford. I'm comfortable with this area. I like this area. It's good for me and my family. And then you reassess. If you get tired of that home, or if values go up enough that you think you can then sell it and maybe buy something a little larger or in a better area or whatever it may be, then you kind of reassess as you go and you pivot. You can't go into the home buying process thinking I want to buy my forever home. I think that's just the wrong approach.